We drilled and we hit something which was far better than just a gold discovery. We hit this massive VMS hole and very high-grade zinc, copper, silver, gold, and we're just drilling and getting this VMS deposited.
Welcome to the My Future Business Show, where we get you in front of your best audience and keep you there. Not only are we interviewing the biggest names in business to help you become even more successful, we're inviting you to book your spot on the show to help you grow your business. So at the end of the call, make sure you fill in the interview application form at myfuturebusiness.com/interviews.
Hello and welcome back to the My Future Business Show. My name is Rick Nusky. I'm your host. Thank you so very much for supporting the show. If this is your first time here, welcome. It's great to have you here. For everybody else who has been here before, thank you again for all of your support. Now on today's show, I have the pleasure of welcoming CEO and Chairman of Starr Peak Mining, Mr. Johnathan Moore. And we're going to be talking about gold and other commodities, VMS deposits, and the very, very bright future that awaits Starr Peak Mining. So with all that being said, welcome to the show, Johnathan.
Rick, thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure for me to be here.
Yes, absolutely. Great to have you here. As we were talking about just briefly earlier, Johnathan, I've been reading a lot about Starr Peak Mining, and, it's a very, very exciting time. I'd love to take a deeper dive into that. But prior to that, always love to spend a bit of time learning about the individual that I'm speaking with. So I guess a good place to start that would be to learn where home is for you.
My home has been for the last 8 years down in the United States. I'm actually in a place called Scottsdale, Arizona, more specifically in Paradise Valley, Arizona. Moved down here, about 8 years ago with my family. We originally from Canada. That's where I grew up and started my career and kind of made my stake in life was in Canada. We moved down specifically 8 years ago for. I have two young boys, one of them which is he's special needs and he's blind and deaf, and he's actually attending a very special school down here.
Right.
It's really the only one in North America that fits his needs. And as a parent, we decided, the most important thing is to give your kids the best chance in life possible to succeed, and that was one of them. So
of course
we jumped ship and moved down here, and it was the best thing that we've ever done.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Excellent. Thank you very much for shining a light on the inside of your life there.
No problem.
Now, in terms of your location, I know that Arizona is hot, to say the least. What drew you there? Was it just the special needs care, or is there other things about the place?
It was. Yeah, so anytime you're uprooting and you're leaving, moving countries with a family, it's quite difficult to do it. However, my wife was American, so it gave us the ability to move. It's not easy just moving from Canada and just saying, "Oh, I want to be an American." Yes, it was for the care of my youngest boy Henry, and the flip side of it is, yes, it is a little bit warm here in the summertime, but for the other 8 months, it's gorgeous. And then you have the lifestyle of, lots of golf, lots of tennis. And I really can't complain much. I think it was a good trade-off.
So I was going to ask you about that. We all enjoy downtime, but being in your position to be mighty busy, I wonder, what are your hobbies and, sports? You've mentioned golf. And what was the other thing you mentioned?
Lots of golf, lots of tennis, lots of just being dad, mainly. But with COVID that we've all been going through, it really has simplified my lifestyle somewhat, because my days of traveling, which I'm usually gone, 2 weeks out of every month, up to Canada, over to Europe, whatever it might be, to Eastern United States, it's not there. It's we stay home, and I actually enjoy it. Everything is done virtually, and we can do these creative things like these podcasts, or we can get online and do, the Zoom calls, whatever it might be. It really hasn't slowed down any of our productivity. It's allowed me to, spend more time with the family and just work smarter. It's although it has been frustrating, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that it's been fun, but the COVID experience has not been too poor.
Well, I tell you, probably the most important question out of this entire call is, are you any good at golf?
Well, I actually golfed college. I played U.S. college golf growing up. So I have played a lot of golf in my lifetime. And I took a little absence when I became a stockbroker, in my earlier years, because I was focused on my career. But I actually, I'm probably right around a scratch golfer. So
very good.
So
I'm not playing you then.
Well, being a dad, it's a little bit difficult because you can't keep the game up. You can't practice as much. So it's, I'm getting a little sloppy, but I think my older boy's getting into golf, so I hope they'll be able to spend a lot more time on the golf course.
Yeah, I know we are going to be talking a lot about Starr Peak Mining in a moment, but I think there's a lot of value to be shared with the world in terms of somebody who's in your position, what you're going through in terms of being a father, mindset, and all these types of things. I just wonder, with that sort of thing in mind, when you're on the golf course, for example, you switch off. Is that the best zone for you to switch off? Do you find that you're not even thinking, and then is that where you relax?
It depends. I find that if I'm golfing, not during stock market hours, and after market hours is generally when I want to play. Weekends, that's when I tune out. The problem arises when you have these damn cell phones now, and that's the problem because if you're during market hours or whatever it might be, you're always it's a distraction. So. For me, I like to golf. I like to turn everything off. But if I have to keep my communication outlets open for market hours, then it's a distraction. So it's a hard thing to say. But anything, if I'm out on the golf course with a bunch of mates, you can't beat it. So
absolutely. No, I agree with you.
That's the bigger thing.
So in terms of running the stocks and going on, I envisage myself in a lounge room with a couple of big screen TVs and the stock markets, and or if I'm out and about with the app on my mobile phone. Is that how you run your operations? Tell us a little bit about what a day looks like for you, I guess.
Well, we, one thing I don't like is when you have these public companies and you raise money, and specifically for something like us where it's important that your dollar lasts as long as you want it to go as far as possible. I don't see any need for any massive operation of big offices, big staff, big huge expense. So we keep things very skinny. We keep things based, I work out of my home office. I don't need the space. I don't need them, the secretaries and the big, sign on the front door.
Very lean.
I don't need that. So really, we're on the West Coast as well. We go by, West Coast time here, and it's early. We're up early. Our days start, 5 o'clock in the mornings, and the flip side is the markets end at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So we're very, we're active bright and early, and then it gives us the afternoons for, most of the meetings and calls or whatever it might be. But it's important for us that we just listen, we simplify things. I mentioned earlier, there's no travel or not a lot of travel. This Zoom thing has been amazing. So
of course, yeah.
All of our business is basically done from our home offices. We have a great network, a great team of people, and we're all doing the same thing. And I want to add, there's one thing that's good about when someone's working at a home and Zoom or whatever it might be. If you want to reach someone, you can get a hold of them. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's you kind of laugh a little bit because if you can't get a hold of them, that's probably because they don't want to talk to you. So
it's very obvious.
There's no excuses when we're keeping things this simple. There's zero excuses.
No, I love it. Well, because there's technology and there's a place for it. Yeah, but there's also that need to make choices as to when I'm switching off. So I think that's very important. Now, when you were growing up, I'd love to go back in the day when you were growing up, from maybe even originally where you were living. I always like to ask, can you remember one thing about your childhood that really was a positive memory for you?
You know what? It was probably for me. I was a junior golfer at a very young age, and I had a mother in the brokerage business. So I spent a lot of time summers around, stockbrokers and the guys in the finance game. And, I was always fascinated with, the kind of flashy life some of them lived. It was, it seemed to me like I always kind of looked at it in awe. And I was golfing one summer, and I think that was a time when I got paired up with a bunch of people from my mother's office, and I fell in love with what they did, the way they conducted themselves, the way they treated me, and And I think at that point, right then and there, I think it was actually a time when I knew that I wanted to get into the financial markets.
Yeah, fantastic.
I ended up, I think, the following summer getting a job in their mailroom, shredding paper all summer, or whatever it might be, or getting them lunches, and it was really I think that was probably a neat time for me, and it was through my passion of golf that I actually was able to, start my career. And you all want to be a professional golfer and everything, but how many people get to do that? At least I found my career through my golf.
Yeah, fantastic. I'm loving the call. Thank you very much. I always think about this, and you've talked about your parents, and you talked about I guess the 5 people you hang around, you start to become like, and all these types of things. But I wonder, what was your first, I guess, exposure to someone that really stuck with you? Was there a particular person as a mentor that guided you? Do you recall that experience?
Yeah, I think probably again on the golf course. Yes, I did play a lot of golf in my younger years, not so much now, but I did a lot of caddying as well. I mean, I was, I had to pay my way, and when I started caddying, I was at this private club, and there's a fellow in the business by the name of Peter Brown. Peter Brown was the big founder of a company called Canaccord. At the time it was called Canarim, but everyone today might know it as Canaccord Capital. And he was the pioneer of the kind of the brokerage scene in Vancouver. Call it Canada, but he was the kind of the young speculator, big hotshot. And actually, I ended up caddying for him at a young age. So I think just spending time around him and just being recognized, when I was young, and I'd pull into the ride my bike into the golf area, and then Mr. Brown was pulling in his Rolls Royce, and you'd say, oh, good morning, Johnathan, just things like that. Yeah. And I think just my experience of hanging around these gentlemen, and just albeit as a caddy, I wasn't talking business, but just
doesn't matter.
I could see how they all conducted themselves, and that was I think a big thing for me.
These types of insights are very useful for those, startup entrepreneurs, those who have not walked the path yet. They're looking for ways to make these relationships happen. So this is valuable content. Thank you very much. Now, since that time, you have come a long way, to say the least. Now, but before you had this wonderful success, I was wondering, what was your first ever job? What was your first thing you ever did? Was it stocks or?
First ever job.
Yeah, mine was fencing.
Going way back here.
Yeah, way back.
I had a job, and I organized. Don't laugh at me here. I was a manager. I ran a U-pick strawberry business in a farming area out in the outskirts of Vancouver, Canada, a place called Richmond. And I used to be able to run the business and tell people where to go pick their strawberries. I think I was 12 years old at the time. And I think that was my first official job. Growing up, I was a caddy. I caddied for my father, caddied for any events that were at the club. So mix and match. I think it was probably the official job was the U-pick strawberry business.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what. Did you get sick of eating strawberries?
Never.
I can only eat so much. Now, since that time, you obviously did all the stocks, and you've had a lot of success there. But given your current position with Starr Peak Mining, I'd love to shift gears and start talking about that if we could. Sure. Could you give us a bit of a background spread about what this business is all about for our viewers?
Sure. So Starr Peak Mining, we're not reinventing the wheel. What we did is originally, we're looking at an area here in Canada, in Quebec. It's on the Abitibi Greenstone Belt, which is home to major discoveries historically. A lot of elephants in terms of size, and really, it's you can find some really, really big deposits in this area. Every major mining company is also in this district, so it seemed to be a good place to form something. And we were involved with a company that neighbors us, and it was a company that had big success and continues to build up a huge asset. The stock's done very well as well. We were early investors, and I got involved early, and as an investor, I wasn't part of the team, but a company called Amex Exploration.
Yes.
And they found a massive gold discovery, which catapulted them to greatness. I think in 2020, I believe. They were Toronto Stock Exchange Stock of the Year. I think it was up about 7,000% or whatever it might have been. So when this happened, I my motto and my theory is that the best place to find another discovery is next to or near one that's already been made.
Of course.
Okay. So there's a saying that discoveries and mines aren't orphans. There's always brothers nearby. They never stand alone. There's always something that, geology just doesn't pop one of them up
it just doesn't stop, does it?
No, it's generally going to be, you're going to find multiple. So we quickly acted, and it was we had a relationship through Amex, obviously, but we acquired and immediately starting a staking and land acquisition frenzy, all on the eastern side of their big discovery, of their property, which was called the Perron property, P-E-R-R-O-N, Perron property. And didn't stop there. We then went further east adjoining, and we acquired a past producing mine called the Normatel mine, which historically in Quebec produced a staggering 10.1 million tons of high-grade zinc, copper, silver, and gold. It was a major VMS deposit, which produced, 40, 50 years throughout the 1900s, and stopped production in early 1980s when the base metal prices dropped and fell out of bed. So we were strategic, but we aggressively acquired all of this land, and the next thing to do was to drill it. And we, a very logical case for us would have been, well, you look where Amex is drilling, and then you see the boundary line. I might add that Amex is drilling within 600 meters of this boundary.
Yep, very close.
Really, it's not a map that dictates where the zones stop. It's obviously it's underground. So really, it's just the logical place would have been just to drill right on the other side of the boundary on our property and just continue on their trend. We didn't. We looked at all the data, we compiled it, and we looked at the past producing mine as kind of a modeling technique, because look, we have a massive structure that produced 10.1 million tons. We see all of the zones. We could input all of the past producing areas and zones that we've gathered for all the data from the government and put it into one big model. And then we started drilling about 400 meters away from that structure instead, because we had more known data at the time. And one of the things that I like doing is it's prioritizing your targets. You have to give the investor the best probable chance or best probable case of actually finding a success in your early drill holes, because you want to get that success early. That's how you get your company rolling. You get your share price higher, and then as you attract more capital, you're not diluting it. You're able to raise money at higher prices. So we drilled and we hit something which was far better than just a gold discovery. We hit this massive VMS hole, and we're looking at almost we think we've got something. As we drill it, we think it's actually going to be bigger, but it looks identical to what we see from this past producing Normatel mine that I mentioned.
Wow.
And so we're very high grade zinc, copper, silver, gold, and we're just drilling and getting this VMS.
Keep drilling. Now, I just have a question on VMS, if you might. Could you clarify for those who may not know as much about what VMS actually means? I do, but maybe others won't.
Sure. So volcanogenic massive sulfide, or volcanogenic massive sulfide, that's the term. It's as the term says right in the word, it's formed from the flows of volcanoes. So back through formation of the crust, and it comes through in the volcanic flows, and these deposits of minerals or metals are made through the volcano flows. Now they're very rich in base metals, a lot of zinc, copper, lead, and also some precious metals, gold and silver. Historically, very long production life is attached or associated with VMS deposits, because the deposits and the rich zones are formed in very tightly located clusters, so they're very easy to get at, and you can really extend them for quite some time down, or quite some depth all the way down. For instance, that Normatel mine I mentioned, the past producer, they produced down to 2.2 kilometers under the surface, so that's deep.
That's a long way.
It's a long way. The economics on these VMS deposits are also so good because the cash profile, you're not just getting credit for, a gold discovery just has gold or silver just has silver. You have all the metals that you're actually getting credit for. So zinc, copper, gold, silver, and that just makes the total economics at the end of the day that much more profitable for the company.
Diversification of your product line, essentially, without even planning for it.
Absolutely. And then to show the rarity of it, I mean, there haven't really been any large VMS deposits in Canada over the last decade. Now, there's been, I think, historically 350 known VMS deposits historically in Canada, 800 worldwide. And just in Canada alone, those 350 deposits, not all of which are producing, but the VMS mines in general today account for 29% of all copper production, 49% of zinc production, and 40% of all silver production total in all of the output of Canadian mining. So they play a major part in total output, or total things produced.
Imagine having that portfolio underneath your belt, just hidden away there. Given that, is Starr Peak Mining primarily as a gold producer, correct?
No, I mean, we're not a producer, so we are still in the stages of proving up the total size of what we have.
Right.
And so the story, we were coined as kind of and I want to make some clarification here, because this is the way the market works when you're investing in Canadian stocks in general.
Yes.
Or mining stocks. So the price of gold dictates everything. Gold's up $40 that day, every mining stock's going to be rocking and rolling. If the price of gold is down $30 or $40, everything's going to be down. Although I might be very, have a lot of zinc and copper and silver, we're still dictated by the gold price.
Yeah.
And I'd like to, in some way, maybe get away from that correlation, but it's just too impossible with just the mining game in general. And my zinc numbers are staggering. I mean, on our first kind of discovery hole, I did about 12 meters of 23.82% zinc. I'm up to my last drill hole. I have 6 meters of well over 3% copper. I mean, these are huge world-class numbers. And can I call myself a zinc player? No. Can I call myself so really we're a base metals explorer that's building up an asset, is really how I would phrase what Starr Peak actually is. So
yeah, fantastic. I appreciate that feedback. I wonder, are you excited about gold right now, given the everything that's happening in the world? Could you give us a little bit of a perspective?
Yeah. So gold was our focus, I will say, and this is the reason why it attracted us to this area to begin with. So I should mention that. I mean, yeah, we were looking for a gold discovery, and we got something better. So we got, sometimes that'd better be lucky than smart, as I tell people, and I'll take lucks over smart any day of the week.
Yep.
But I feel gold is really in the second inning right now. I think we have a huge opportunity that we haven't seen in my generation. I think we have a big 5 to 10 year run for these metals, and we'll look at gold specifically. The amount of printing of paper and money that the U.S. alone has done, it's just staggering, and it's only getting more and more. And we have 1 trillion passed. Now we have another 3.5 trillion coming up on a spending bill.
Yep.
So really, I think the effect of this inflation and the really, I don't see I can't see how gold cannot have its move that we are all eagerly waiting for. I mean, we called it a year ago, and we've had a dismal 8, 9, 10 months of gold. So the indication to me to have gold in your portfolio could never have been better. I mean, today, I think the indicators are there. And we just got to be patient with it. I think we have lost a little bit of thunder to things like Bitcoin and some of these cryptos, but I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, gold is, we still have the first gold bar in the world that was produced, a couple hundred years ago. So It hasn't gone anywhere. It's an intrinsic value. It's there. There's in my mind, it's history.
Tangible.
Yes, history will repeat itself as well. Gold is not going away.
We talk about cycles with commodities. I wonder, are we entering, excuse me, any sort of a cycle that you can see with, the other commodities? And what's your opinion?
Yeah, we are very similar. I mean, I see, the base metal side, we've already seen a massive increase. Just actually look at the COVID time with the price of commodities, and especially copper.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, the price of zinc, I mean, it's gone through the roof very, very quickly. Now, the thing I like about it is we consume these base metals. They're not stored as a wealth or a reason to kind of hold your money. This is actually, these things are consumed. Now we just have word of, a massive infrastructure bill in the U.S. coming through. And what does that mean? Well, when they build roads and bridges and airports and whatever it might be, they're going to be consuming more and more of these metals.
Yep.
Building grids for electric vehicles or power stations. I mean, these things are going to be just eaten up. So I see a major move in prices of these base metals. I mean, we haven't even seen it. Sure, we saw it. Zinc went from 2,100 to 2,900, I think, over the last 9 months. But no, these moves are just beginning. I mean, I think I have this expression. I think there's going to be a rip your face off rally on the prices of these metals. I really do.
Yeah, no, there's another one that seems to pop up a little bit. All the metals associated with electric batteries, lithium's another one that seems to be moving quite a bit at the moment.
Absolutely. I mean, I love the space. I number of investments in that space as well, and I think it's you throw that into the mix as well with the base metals.
Yeah, I'd love to come back to your site for Starr Peak. I'm always, given that I've spent many years in surface exploration, drilling myself, love the experience. I always think about, the topography, the access, the support, the infrastructure. Tell us a little bit about that side of your business.
So that's a good question, because really, you could have one of the greatest discoveries in the world on anything, and if it's not in the right location, there's not a lot you can do with it. And when I mean that, I mean it's just how economic is it? What sort of infrastructure is in place? Where is there power? What's nearby? Is there a railway line going? And one of the attractions for us going into Starr Peak and where we acquired our land was it's in this Abitibi Greenstone Belt, which is a very prolific area for major mining companies, production, and it's a big game. I find that location is probably, once you make your discovery, I mean, what do you have to do? You have to prove up the asset so it's big enough, and then you have to do your feasibility studies. You have to show that the economics make sense, and we are operating in probably one of the cheapest places to possibly operate anywhere around the world. The taxation is absolutely in our favor. We have a very pro-mining area, so all the trades are there, all your drillers are there, all your labs. You have, you have your, we have First Nations, Aboriginal type things, but they're all pro-mining. So really, there's no liability there, and you couldn't be asking for anything more. I mean, it's I'm drilling
storm,
right now.
As it were.
Pardon me?
The perfect storm, as it were.
It really is. I mean, this is the place where you want to find it. And, I'm drilling right now. I think I'm all in currently today per meter. So this is how you kind of would judge it. I'm drilling at about 185 to 190 Canadian dollars a meter all in. And that's including all my lab work, assays, and everything.
Overheads, the lot.
And, my geos sleep in a house. There's no camps. I mean, there's towns of, you go get a hot meal, use your cell phone.
It's wonderful.
I mean, it really is a geologist's dream, perfect scenario.
I can tell. I know. I've been at places we've had to drill before. It's not the same as that, let me assure you. I wonder if I could ask you, you talked about, local populations. You've talked about geologists that you work with. First of all, what does it look like for, the employment of local people? Because that's often the question that comes up.
Yeah. We are seeing a surge in activity for exploration companies, and the difficulty has been, if there was one, would be getting drills. Drills and drill crews and drill operators have been tricky to get. And that's one area that I would say has we've managed to beat everyone out, because what I did early is, when I saw what Amex was doing, our neighbors at the time, when I saw the success that they were having, they had a group of geos, and it was an exploration group that does everything for them. And their name is Amex Exploration. And it's kind of like a one-service shop, from geology to drilling and just everything. And they plan it and map it and do everything for you. And so I contacted them very early, before there was a huge rush in this area, and everybody was out there raising money and trying to get people to do their drill projects. Well, I secured them, and so I basically got the same geos and same team on our property as what they had.
Oh, wow.
And this is important, because they already had an understanding now of geology in this area. They already could see what rocks were being done, what sort of, sorry, you can probably see my wife walking in the background. So we had all the expertise right from day one.
They already know the lay of the land, literally.
And I want to add, and this is what I'm probably most proud of, is the fact that the more results and bigger discovery, and as this thing is progressing, I'm becoming better and better and better, and bigger and bigger and bigger. The type of people that I have been able to attract and join my team, and the expertise and the pedigree of people, is just, it's getting big,
better.
It's getting better. And I'll throw an example out. After my second or third big hole I put out to the market, the chairman and founder of Amex, Dr. Jacques Trottier, who was the guy that started Amex. I knew well beforehand, but he contacted me and he says, "Look, I really like your VMS and your discovery here. I think he studied VMS throughout his years. I think he's in his 60s, and he just says, look, I want to join your team." And so I made him a spot as the chief technical advisor. So anytime you can put something like that on it, for me, it's instant credibility. It just
that's crazy, isn't it?
It was fantastic.
That's amazing.
We were blessed to have that.
Now, I know you talked a little bit about having a bit of a flat structure where there's not many overheads in terms of infrastructure and all that type of thing. I'd love to, for the sake of the listeners and viewers, in fact, to learn a little bit about your management team. Who's involved aside from the people you've just mentioned and your good self? Yeah,
so we're exploration in nature now, so really I don't need in terms of I don't need to pay top dollar to get a big CEO in there to kind of, why would I? I'm the chairman CEO, and one thing that I do is I'm a market-driven CEO, so I want to make sure that there's enough gas in the tank to get the drills constantly going. And what I mean by that, we started off with a 5,000 meter program. We went to 20, we're up to 40. Now we just announced it's up to 60,000. And I will add, we're not going to stop. We're just going to keep drilling this thing. I think Amex, they're up to 300,000 meters, and but they started a year and a half before us, so I want to catch up to that. That's really my goal. I've got a good accountant that's up in Canada, Cyrus Driver, who sits on the board of multiple mining companies. I've got who else do I have in there? I have a French-Canadian, Ron Bourgeois, who's good with just corporate governance. And by the way, these guys aren't paid. These guys are all just sitting there, and the way they're going to make their money is through stock options and moving the share price higher. And then the advisory side, I've got Dr. Jacques Trottier, who I just mentioned from Amex, and a really other big VMS guy, Yves Rougerie, who's from the area in Quebec. It's funny because all these guys speak French, and so they can actually translate all the stuff coming from the drillers, because I am very minimal French, and I rely on these guys just to kind of make sure what I'm reading is correct. So
that's wonderful. I've absolutely loved this call, and I'd love to ask, if I could, Johnathan. We can't necessarily project out too far, but you're continuing drilling. You're going to do more mapping of the entire site, presumably. So what's happening for you in the next 6 to 12 months?
Yeah, so really what I tell my investors is we are fully funded for 6,000 meters, and my plan is just to keep going from there on in. I think we have enough money in our tank for us, these drills, three drill rigs to go for the next year. I don't need any funding. So what I like as an investor is I like to see companies like this, because the only way for my market cap to have a reason to grow is to make it bigger. And the only reason you can make it bigger is by more drilling. So if I'm currently, and I'm just drilling and drilling and drilling, that's the reason for your market cap to grow. And I made reference earlier, when you get into these VMS deposits, you can very quickly, increase the size of these quite easily. And
of course,
we got these models and structures that we're hitting into these zones, and you just keep building and building and building. And we actually think that this past producing Normatal mine, which we've modeled, and we're hitting, we're drilling 400 or 500 meters, away from it. Well, we're hitting zones that they hit, and it might be skewed a little bit in terms of faulting, whatever it might be, but the grades are consistent, the depths are consistent, and we haven't scratched the surface of this. We've only gone down 700-800 meters. Well, they produced down to 2.2 kilometers, over 60 years.
What's in store?
What's in store? So my problem, if I was to have one, is it's prioritizing where to drill, because I have so many targets looking at us in the face. I'm relying on these geos to basically say, okay, what are the best probability? As I mentioned earlier, the probabilities are what we're going after.
Yeah.
And the techniques that we're using compared to what they used, in the 1900s are way ahead. I mean,
well advanced. Yeah,
we're able to send probes down, see conductivity zones, and then target our drills within a meter of where we want them to be. They didn't have any of that.
No, it's crazy.
So I actually think the potential is far greater, and really the only way we're going to find out that is just to keep these drills drilling, and that's
those tips. Stop. Make sure you don't break those tips. Keep them in the ground. Absolutely. And get some core samples out and do what you do best. Now, with all that being said, I'm very, very excited for your future, for the Starr Peak Mining Group's future. And I'd love to, if you wouldn't mind, please, Johnathan, if you could share the ticker that's relevant for our audience. Yeah,
so we're Toronto Stock Exchange, TSX Venture Exchange. I think the symbol Sam Tom Edward is the Canadian symbol. We also have a U.S. symbol. We trade in the U.S. under the symbol Sam, Tom, Robert, Peter, Frank. So it's we're active. We're trading. My website's StarPeakMiningLTD.com. Now, Star has 2 R's, so it's StarPeakMiningLTD.com. And we have a lot of press that goes out. So one of the luxuries I have with drilling so much is that there's constant press releases in terms of results and drilling results.
I noticed that, yep.
And we put them out and out. Always look to those. There's a phone number at the bottom, and we answer every phone call we get. We love phone calls. Call me up. The number is at the bottom of all those press releases, and you will always get a voice when you try to reach out for Starr Peak.
Thank you so very much, Johnathan. Everybody who's on the call today, be excited, get excited. I'm excited. I'm sitting here thinking to myself, I really need to get more involved, more active with this. If you're an investor, potential investor, want to learn more, I will be making sure that the link back to Starr Peak are available below this call. No matter where you find it, you will definitely find the links back to Johnathan, Starr Peak Mining Group. And with all that being said, Johnathan, thank you so very much for spending some time with me on the My Future Business show today.
Thank you. That was a lot of fun. Thanks very much for having me.
Thanks for joining us today. If you enjoyed the call, then make sure to subscribe, leave a comment, share us with your friends, and book your spot on the show at myfuturebusiness.com/interviews. And if you're looking for solutions that will help grow your business, then visit myfuturebusiness.com/shop.